You ever have one of those mornings where something just feels off? I was standing in my kitchen, holding a bottle I wasn't supposed to find. Not in my wife's purse, not ever. It wasn't perfume or hand cream. It was a high-end bottle of personal lubricant, definitely not the kind we ever used. And right next to it, a brand new box of expensive condoms. The very brand Lisa always claimed gave her a rash. My name's Danny, I'm 35. I fix laptops and printers in a small Connecticut town where folks know what color socks their neighbors wear. My wife Lisa works downtown, executive assistant to the senior partners at Morrison & Associates. Real big shot stuff. She's sharp, driven, and always on the go. Her hair's always perfect, her stilettos clicking like clockwork as she runs off to late meetings and client dinners. That morning, though, something inside me shifted. Not rage, not heartbreak, just a slow sinking chill, like ice water running down my spine. I didn't yell, I didn't flip the table. I've never been that kind of guy. I'm the type who reads the fine print, makes backups, checks the locks twice before bed, so I didn't confront Lisa. Instead, I started planning. Later that evening, she was in the shower, steam rolling under the door, her favorite playlist humming. I grabbed the lubricant bottle and unscrewed the cap with surgeon-like focus. Half of it I poured down the drain. The rest I replaced with a cocktail I'd cooked up back in college, bright green dye and a generous splash of pepper spray. Think water fountain prank, but industrial strength. The condoms got their own special treatment. A sewing needle, a steady hand, and a few small invisible punctures in just the right places. Let's see how rashy those get now, I muttered to myself as I packed everything back the way I found it. She came out of the bathroom in a towel, skin glowing, eyes innocent as ever. "Hey babe," she smiled. "How was your day?" "Same as always," I replied, watching her face like a hawk. "Nothing. Not a flicker." She was good, too good. At dinner, she mentioned she'd be working late again. "Big case coming up," she said. "Patterson's pushing the team hard. Richard Patterson, senior partner, classic silver fox, drives a Porsche, divorced, way too smooth for his own good." I asked where they were working. "The Hampton Suites," she answered casually, like she'd said they were going to the library. "The one off the interstate." I nodded, twirling my spaghetti. That place? Everyone knew what the Hampton Suites were really for. Hourly rooms, if you knew the right number to call. It wasn't exactly the Ritz. That night, while Lisa slept like an angel, I got to work. Slid a tiny GPS tracker under the driver's seat of her car. One of those modern gadgets that syncs to your phone and doesn't make a sound. I smiled to myself. Technology really is beautiful when you know how to use it. 3 days later, a buzz on my phone. Lisa's car was parked at the Hampton Suites. Time 3 p.m. Day Wednesday. She had told me she had a client lunch. I drove over, parked behind a landscaping truck and waited. 20 minutes passed. Then I saw her, Lisa, stepping out of room 237, brushing her hair and adjusting the black dress I bought her last anniversary. The one she said was too formal for work. Right behind her was Patterson, smoothing down his tie like a man who just hit a home run. They kissed. Not a quick peck. The kind of kiss that left lipstick on his collar and left my stomach in knots. Lisa was wearing that red lingerie, the one she told me was too itchy to wear. I took out my phone, snapped photos, their faces, the time, the license plate, all of it, clear as day. But I wasn't done. Not even close. The next week, I called in sick and played detective. Just a man with a pair of binoculars, a notebook, and a thermos full of black coffee. I learned their pattern. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Always the same dance. She'd text me that she was working late, then sneak off to the Hampton Suites. That Thursday, I booked the room right below theirs. The Hampton might look fancy in brochures, but the walls? Thin as tissue paper. And then I heard it. Her husband's completely clueless. Patterson's voice came through the ceiling, like a radio turned low. Probably thinks romance means updating her antivirus software. Lisa laughed. Not her usual laugh. This one was mean. "Danny's sweet, but he's so boring. He installed a new password manager last month and called it date night." I lay there staring at the ceiling, gripping the sheets so hard my knuckles went white. But I kept listening. "You think he suspects anything?" Patterson asked. Lisa snorted. "Please. Danny still thinks I get rashes from those condoms. He'd believe anything." My heart felt like it was crawling out of my chest, and yet I didn't move. Didn't scream. Just recorded everything with my phone. Voice memos, timestamps, their voices mocking me, laughing at me, planning weekend getaways like I didn't exist. By the time they left, I had enough ammo to blow their whole world apart. But that wasn't the plan. Not yet. That night, Lisa came home with a fake smile and a real stomachache. "I must have eaten something bad at lunch," she groaned, barely making it to the bathroom in time. "Poor baby," I said, handing her a ginger ale. "Maybe take it easy tomorrow." She nodded weakly. I kissed her forehead. She had no idea. The next morning, I got a call from a buddy of mine who works out at the gym with Patterson. "Bro, you hear about your wife's boss?" He laughed. Dude blew up right in the middle of a lunch meeting. like full-on food poisoning meltdown. Paramedics and everything. I nearly dropped my phone. What? Yeah, man. At the country club. Explosive stuff, literally. I smiled for the first time in days. She sat across from me, trembling. Her skin was stained with streaks of green, and the tears rolling down her cheeks only made the color smear worse. She looked like some kind of melting costume character from a bad parade. Still beautiful, but now twisted with guilt and panic. Richard and we were having a meeting, she started, her voice cracked and thin. Something went terribly wrong. A meeting? I asked, pretending not to know. What kind of wrong? Lisa covered her face with her hands. We ended up in the ER. There was some kind of chemical reaction. I don't know. This green stuff. It got everywhere. And it burns, Danny. It burns everywhere. I bit down on the inside of my cheek to stop the grin trying to climb across my face. The doctor said it looks like industrial dye mixed with some irritant. Richard's freaking out. He thinks someone did it on purpose. He wants to call the cops, or maybe hire a private investigator. I reached over and gently touched her hand, keeping my expression neutral. That's awful, I said softly. Are you okay? Do you need to go back to the hospital? Lisa shook her head, her whole body still trembling. I already went. They gave me some cream for the burning, but the green, Danny, they said it could take weeks to fade. I can't even look at myself. That evening, while she soaked in an oatmeal bath trying to soothe the pain, I got a call from my cousin Mike. He works security at the Hampton Suites. Danny, he whispered, trying not to laugh. You're not gonna believe this. We had the wildest situation today. 2 people in room 237, full-blown medical emergency. Paramedics had to carry them out. I leaned against the wall, phone pressed to my ear. What happened? Dude, they were both covered in some kind of bright green dye, head to toe, screaming about burning skin, naked, in a hotel room, together. Sounds rough, I said, keeping my tone flat. And get this, it was obviously an affair. Guy's a hotshot lawyer, woman's married. They were trying to explain to the EMTs why they were in their underwear in a hotel bed, painted green and crying. I chuckled under my breath. Wow, it's already going viral. People caught some of it on video. They're calling it the Green Lovers incident online, trending all over social media. You gotta see it. I hung up the phone and allowed myself a rare smile. Phase 2 had gone even better than I'd imagined. The next morning, Lisa walked into the kitchen looking like a radioactive elf. The green dye had soaked into her skin overnight, leaving behind a patchy, splotchy mess. Her eyes were bloodshot, likely from the pepper spray that had somehow found its way into the mix. I can't go to work like this, she whimpered, staring into the mirror in the hallway. Everyone will see. Everyone's gonna ask questions. Maybe call in sick, I offered kindly. Tell them you had an allergic reaction or something. Just then, my phone rang. Patterson's name lit up the screen. Lisa lunged to grab it, but I got there first. Hello? I answered calmly. Danny, came the voice, hoarse and raw. This is Richard Patterson, from Lisa's firm. We need to talk. I stepped into the next room. About what? There's been a serious incident. Someone sabotaged us. It was chemical. I think you may have had something to do with it. Lisa stood behind me, shaking her head rapidly, mouthing, "Don't say anything. That's a serious accusation," I said evenly. "Are you telling me someone tried to hurt my wife?" "She and I were conducting business," he replied, stumbling over his words, "at the hotel, and we were both exposed to some kind of chemical substance. This was an attack, and I intend to press charges." "Business?" I asked, letting the word hang in the air. Silence. "What kind of business requires you to be half naked in a hotel room with my wife, Mr. Patterson?" More silence. Then a pause. "I think you know exactly what I'm talking about," he said finally. "Actually, I don't," I replied cheerfully. "But if it helps, I'd be happy to meet in person to discuss it, somewhere public. My lawyer can come too." "Your lawyer?" "Oh yeah," I said. "See, I've been noticing some odd patterns in Lisa's schedule. Unexplained absences, strange purchases, room service receipts. Probably all harmless, but you know better safe than sorry." The line was quiet except for the sound of Patterson breathing heavily through his nose. "I'm hanging up now," he finally said. "This isn't over." "No," I agreed. "It really isn't." I ended the call and turned back to Lisa, who looked like she'd been hit by a truck. Her shoulders slumped, her skin stained, her eyes bloodshot, a crumpled wreck of the woman who once controlled every conversation. "You did this," she whispered. "You knew. You planned everything." I raised an eyebrow. "Knew about what?" "Don't," she snapped. "Don't play dumb, Danny. You sabotaged something. You put something in." She stopped herself, couldn't even finish the sentence. "I put something in what, Lisa?" I asked, feigning confusion. "Your work supplies? Your business materials?" I crossed my arms, smiling just slightly. "Or do you mean the bottle of lubricant I found in your purse? The one sitting next to the box of condoms you said made your skin break out?" She covered her face with her hands again. "It's not what you think." "No?" I leaned closer. "Because what I think is that my wife's been cheating on me for months, with her boss, using my money for hotel rooms, telling lies to my face while laughing behind my back. That's not." "Should we check the hotel's security footage?" I cut her off. "Or your phone records, or maybe the texts you've been sending your boss after hours." She sank into one of the kitchen chairs, silent. Her shoulders shook slightly. "How long have you known?" she asked quietly. Long enough to get creative, I replied, pouring myself some coffee. She looked up at me with glassy, defeated eyes. What do you want? I took a slow sip, letting the silence stretch before I answered. I want you to understand something, I said, locking eyes with her. For months, you and Patterson made me the punchline to your little joke. You planned around me, mocked me, treated me like I was too stupid to notice. But I did notice. Her lip trembled, and she looked away. I noticed everything. She tried to speak, but I held up my hand. Don't, I said. Just don't. She looked stunned. Her mouth opened, then shut again. Green-tinged tears began to fall, streaking down her cheeks like watercolor paint gone wrong. You used our home as your base of operations, I said, my voice steady, flat. You used our bed as your war room. You used our money, my money, to buy supplies for your little field trips. And through it all, every morning, you looked me right in the eye and lied. I'm sorry, she whispered. Danny, I'm so sorry. It just happened. Richard was charming. You were always working. I felt alone. I felt stop. I didn't raise my voice, didn't shout. Just one word, sharp as glass. Stop making excuses. You made a choice. Multiple choices, actually. And now you get to live with the consequences. What kind of consequences? She asked softly. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. I didn't have to look to know who it was. Patterson, I said flatly, silencing the call. He's calling to beg. Lisa looked panicked. Don't answer. Please, Danny. He's freaking out. He thinks you're going to ruin his career. Isn't that interesting, I said, almost to myself. He's worried about his career, but not a word about destroying my marriage. I let the voicemail play on speaker. Patterson's voice filled the kitchen. Angry, desperate, spiraling. Threats, legal warnings, accusations, pleas. 3 full minutes of a man unraveling. When it ended, Lisa looked up with damp, puffy eyes. He's scared, she said quietly. He should be. That afternoon, while she stayed hidden in the bedroom, trying everything from lemon juice to baking soda to remove the green dye from her skin, there was a knock at the front door. I opened it and found Patterson on my porch, looking like a man who'd lost a wrestling match with a vat of toxic waste. His face was streaked in green, his hands blotchy, his tailored suit permanently stained. He looked like a cartoon villain halfway through a transformation scene. We need to talk, he said through clenched teeth. Absolutely, I replied, stepping outside and closing the door behind me. I think it's best if the neighbors witness this conversation. He blinked, confused. You poisoned us, he snapped. Don't pretend you didn't. Poisoned. I tilted my head like I didn't understand. Mr. Patterson, are you feeling okay? You look unwell. Cut the crap, he hissed. You found out about the affair. You did something, you tampered with something. I want to know how. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Sorry, could you repeat that? I asked calmly. You mentioned an affair. His eyes went wide. Too late, he realized he'd stepped into the trap. Stop recording. I'm on my property, Mr. Patterson. I have every right to record this conversation. And Connecticut is a one-party consent state, so I don't even need your permission. He turned and saw the neighbors. Mrs. Chen was out in her garden, pruning roses while sneakily eavesdropping. Across the street, Mr. Gallagher stood watering his lawn, pretending not to watch. You want to explain your relationship with my wife again? I asked. You said something about an affair. You can't use this, he sputtered. It's illegal. Actually, it's not. But even if it were, you just admitted on camera that you've been sleeping with my wife. Would you like to explain to a judge why you were in a hotel room during work hours covered in industrial dye with someone else's spouse? He looked like he might explode. What do you want? He whispered finally. I paused, pretended to consider it. Let's see. I want my wife to stop lying to me. I want you to stop playing the charming boss and preying on vulnerable women in hotel rooms. I want both of you to stop acting like actions don't have consequences. This was an attack, he said. You set a chemical trap. You could be arrested. Arrested for what exactly? I asked. For pouring green dye into a bottle of lubricant. That sounds like an accident waiting to happen. Maybe Lisa bought a bad product. Maybe the hotel had a plumbing issue. And more importantly, what exactly were you doing in that hotel room, Mr. Patterson? He realized it then. He was trapped. Any complaint he made would force him to publicly admit to the affair. To explain why he was shirtless in a hotel room screaming about chemical burns. I want you to stay away from Lisa, he muttered, seething. Funny, I said with a smile. I was about to tell you the same thing. He stormed off toward his Porsche. The green dye on his skin made him look ridiculous behind the wheel. As he pulled away, I waved to Mrs. Chen. Everything okay, Danny? She called from her garden. Just fine, Mrs. Chen. Just fine. That evening, Lisa came out of the bedroom, her face blotchy, her posture stiff. She stood in the living room with whatever dignity she had left, still visibly stained but trying to look composed. Richard says you're trying to ruin his life, she said flatly. He says you're going to send that recording to the partners at the firm. Am I? I said without looking up from my laptop. Are you? She asked, her voice softer. Depends. On what? On how much more lying you plan to do. She let out a shaky breath and sank down onto the couch. The same couch I imagined, where she had texted him late at night, where she'd sat with her legs
nails curled up, pretending everything was normal while making plans behind my back. "What do you want to know?" she asked. "Everything," I replied. "When it started, how often, what you've spent, who else knows, everything." And she told me. For 2 hours she confessed. It had started 6 months ago, right after the firm's Christmas party. Patterson had been recently divorced. He was flirty, attentive. She was flattered, said I had been distant, too wrapped up in work. It started with innocent chats, turned into lunch dates, then coffee, then hotel rooms, Tuesday afternoons, Thursday mornings. It wasn't love, she insisted. It was excitement, something different. Different from what? I asked. Your boring husband? Your predictable life? She shook her head. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I heard you say it. I heard every word from that hotel room ceiling. Her face turned bright red beneath the fading green. You were listening? I was documenting. For the divorce. Like the word had knocked the air out of her. Divorce, she whispered. Did you think I'd just let this go? Pretend none of it happened. Go back to fixing your Wi-Fi while you sneak out the back door. Her hands shook. We could try counseling, therapy, marriage rehab. People work through affairs all the time, she said, her voice trembling. They do it in therapy. They talk it out. They recommit. But that only works when both people actually want to fix things. When there's real remorse, not just fear, not just regret that someone got caught. The truth was, I didn't see remorse in her eyes. I saw panic, embarrassment, guilt, maybe, but not shame. She was crying again, silent tears cutting streaks through the fading green dye on her face. But I felt nothing. The woman sitting on the couch wasn't Lisa anymore. She was someone else, a stranger who wore my wife's smile while sneaking out the door to betray me week after week. I made a mistake, she sobbed. A terrible mistake, but it's over. Richard's too scared to keep seeing me now. We can start over. There is no starting over from this, Lisa, I said calmly. This wasn't one mistake. It was 6 months of decisions, hundreds of deliberate choices. Every text, every room key, every time you told me you were working late and looked me straight in the eye. My phone rang. Don't answer it, Lisa said quickly. It's probably Richard. He's been panicking all day. He's worried about his reputation. I answered anyway and put it on speaker. Danny, it's Richard. Look, we need to find a way to clean this up. This whole thing's gotten out of hand. You think so? I asked casually. I'm prepared to offer you compensation for your discretion, he said, voice tight. We can all walk away from this quietly. I looked at Lisa. Her eyes were wide. Even she hadn't expected Patterson to try buying me off. Compensation, I repeated. What kind? $20,000. Cash, for your silence. Lisa's face turned the color of paper. Her great love, her secret fling, was trying to bribe his way out. I could almost see the pieces of her fantasy life falling apart in real time. That's generous, I said, but I have a counteroffer. I'm listening, Patterson replied. You resign from the law firm, leave town, and never contact my wife again. In exchange, I won't send the recording of our porch conversation to the Connecticut Bar Association's Ethics Committee. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm serious, I said, because I did some reading. This isn't your first workplace affair, is it, Richard? There was that paralegal 3 years ago, and the court reporter before that. The bar might be interested in a pattern of predatory behavior toward subordinates. There was a pause on the line. You're blackmailing me, he said at last. I'm giving you a choice, I said. The same kind of choice you gave me when you decided to start something with my wife. The difference is I'm not hiding it. This is extortion. No, Richard, it's consequences. Take the deal, or get ready to explain to your partners why a video titled "Lawyer Gets Green with Envy" is blowing up on every legal blog.
The line went dead. Lisa sat motionless, staring at me like she'd never seen me before. I never knew you could be so cold, she said softly. So calculating. Ruthless, I offered.
Yeah, you're right. You didn't know me at all. You knew the version of me that paid the bills, fixed your Wi-Fi, and pretended not to notice the cologne on your clothes. That's not fair. What's not fair is being made a fool of for 6 months. What's not fair is busting my ass at work while you snuck off to hotel rooms I was unknowingly paying for. What's not fair is being humiliated by the 2 people I trusted most. My phone rang again. This time it was Lisa's friend Jenny. Don't answer, Lisa said quickly. She doesn't know anything. Please. I picked up anyway. Hi, Jenny. Danny. Oh, thank God. I've been trying to reach Lisa all day. She's not answering her phone. Is everything okay?
Lisa froze beside me. There's these videos going around, Jenny continued, her voice hushed. Some kind of chemical accident at a hotel, and people are saying it looks like Lisa. I handed the phone to my wife. Your friend wants to chat. I stepped away as Lisa stammered her way through half-lies and weak excuses. No, Jenny, it wasn't what it looks like. We were just reviewing documents and there was a spill, a chemical spill. In a hotel room? Jenny's voice cut through loud and clear. At 3 in the afternoon? While wearing lingerie. There was a long pause. Lisa, I love you, Jenny said finally. But I'm not an idiot. The whole town is talking about it. After the call ended, Lisa just stared at the floor. Jenny's going to tell everyone, she said weakly. They already know, I replied. This is a small town. Word travels fast, especially when there's video involved. My career is ruined. My reputation's destroyed. My friends, they're all going to turn on me. Probably, I said. That's what happens when you make terrible decisions in public. You wanted this, she snapped. You wanted me to be humiliated. I wanted you to face consequences, I said evenly. That's not the same thing. She stood and began pacing, wild and desperate. What if I told you I was pregnant? She blurted. I looked up from my laptop. Are you? I could be, she said quickly. We haven't been careful lately. When you say we, do you mean us? Or you and Patterson? Her face flushed. Us. You and me. Your baby. I opened my calendar app. Interesting, I said. According to this, we haven't been intimate since March 15th. It's May 23rd. So unless you're telling me you're 2 months along and just now realizing it. Lisa sat down slowly, defeated. There's no baby, she admitted. I thought if you believed there was, maybe you'd try to work things out. So even now, with everything falling apart, you're still lying to me. I'm desperate, she said, eyes glistening. I don't know what else to do. You could try telling the truth, I said. Just once, just to see what it feels like. That night, Lisa slept in the guest room. I lay in our bed staring at the ceiling, trying to absorb it all. Everything we had burned down in 6 months of lies. All the memories, the routines, the inside jokes. I should have felt shattered, but instead, I felt strangely clear. When I found a bottle of premium lubricant and fancy condoms in my wife Lisa's purse, ones we'd never used, I knew. But instead of confronting her, I got creative. I swapped the lube with green dye and pepper spray, poked tiny holes in the condoms, and planted a GPS tracker in her car. 3 days later, I caught her and her boss, Richard Patterson, leaving a hotel room mid-afternoon laughing, touching her red lingerie peeking out. They mocked me, thought I was clueless, but I recorded everything. Audio, video, receipts. Phase 2. The green surprise. They ended up in the ER, covered in dye and burns. The scandal went viral. I confronted Patterson on my porch, recorded his confession. He resigned. Lisa, abandoned and humiliated, begged for another chance. She even faked a pregnancy. I filed for divorce. Now, Patterson's chasing ambulances in Florida. Lisa's in a dingy apartment near Hartford. Me, I'm sipping beer at Murphy's, living in peace. People say I went too far, but they weren't lied to for 6 months. I didn't destroy them, I let them destroy themselves. Some folks get closure. I gave mine a splash of brilliant green, and I don't regret a second of it.